Time to pick Imperial White Currants. And these are very ripe berries, and they get to be quite sweet once they're this ripe. And you can tell how by the color of them, they're actually turning a little bit brown, that they're at their ripest stage. The unripe ones have a little bit of green to them, and they hold on to the raceme very tightly. And you actually have to, the raceme is the stem that holds the berries on, and when you go to pull the berries off, you'll pull that whole stem off the branch. But ripe berries just come floating right off of there with a little bit of finger pressure. And you got to have kind of light fingers. And some of these guys with the large fingers and large hands probably wouldn't be as good at it. You'd have to really concentrate to get this done. So my property here has an overabundance of white currants, and it kind of went counter to my overall philosophy in the beginning when I did the design. I wanted just a pick and eat, mostly a pick and eat garden where you're picking them and eating them right away. So I did have some room for storage crops for the winter. But the highest value of these plants are if you eat them within 3 hours of being picked. We have small intestines that requires enzymes for the processing, and if you pick these and eat these plants within, and berries and nuts and everything within 3 hours of picking, you're going to have the enzymes. They're going to be alive, which is going to fund your small intestines. That's why I designed. I actually learned part of that in a permaculture design course that I participated in. The enzyme part, the enzyme lasting for 3 hours, and I think he mentioned that he learned that from the Biodynamic Association. So I mentioned that I made this design for pick and eat, but I overplanted everything because you never know if a certain plant species is going to like your soil, or if there's hidden diseases here, or pests that'll just, like birds that just devour everything before you get a chance at it. You just never know, so I overplant everything to compensate for some problems. And now that my property is beginning to mature a little, there's some of the plants like these Imperial White Currants that it's just gone crazy, and I have a way overabundance of them, way more than the pick and eat that I originally tried to establish. This actually was a little experimental plot where I wanted to see if asparagus and ribes would grow together well, and this part of the design, the asparagus died out because the ribes are very densely planted. There's still a couple of them here. There's one right here, right in front of me here. But by and large, most of them died. I probably had 20 of them planted in this little patch, and there's might be 3 or 4 that are alive yet. And they're kind of anemic, where some of them I didn't even harvest. They're such a little thin asparagus. But then the successful part of this experiment was, as I went down towards the west, I planted less ribes and planted more asparagus, and they are getting along very well. Get this out of the way here. I got kind of a dark picture anyways, don't I? I have a dark face. So now, last year I did an experiment with making vinegar out of these white currants, and the experiment was rather successful. Now this year I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do what I did last year, where I just crushed up the berries, added some water, and put a tight seal on top, and every once in a while I'd shake it. Once a day or something I'd shake it and release the pressure. So what I'm going to do a little different on some of it, which is going to be very time consuming, I'm going to actually squeeze the juice out of the berries, and I'm going to save the skins because there are phytonutrients in the skins. I'm going to dehydrate those for winter, and then the juice I'll make into that vinegar. Just look at that, just beautiful, beautiful fruit. Get this a little closer here. There. Just look at that. Can you see these are berries holding on to that little stem, and I'm just taking my fingers and just kind of gently massage. Oh, there's one that broke, so I can hold it up closer for you. Eh? It just comes right off. Nice ripe berries here. I'm going to get even better close up here. Get the leaves out of the way. You get the berries holding onto that stem. Just lightly pulling them off. Sometimes I get a little careless and drop a few berries, and I figure, well, they're going to go back to the soil. There you can see that brown one. It's indicative of a very ripe berry. Let's just get this one brown one out of here. Okay, now focus close. There's that brown one. That is a very ripe berry. So it's about mid-morning on July 4th. A great Independence Day here for the United States. People go nuts with firecrackers and all that. And these berries are ripe, ready to go. We've already ate strawberries and honeyberries. And now it's the white currants. I've got some red currants that are ready. We'll get some of those picked today, I think. And then the Josta berries and the black currants are probably another week or so away. Yeah, there's some green ones on here yet, right? There's a couple of them that are kind of greenish. I love it when it just comes all right off like that. If I wasn't talking to the camera, I'd be meditating while I'm picking berries, which I think is another healthy aspect of berries, is actually picking them and working with them. The natives here in this country used to make pemmican. The berries were a component of pemmican. Spider in my bowl. Let's see, we're on this one right here. So I ate a whole bunch of these berries yesterday, way more than I've been eating, and they got a little bit lethargic. So I still have a high insulin situation in my body. It's funny how this whole thing came down over the years, and if I'd have known about this 15 years ago, that's when I got the first symptoms, where I'd feel weakness if I ate sweets. It actually started with breakfast. If I had pancakes and syrup, at 11 o'clock I would crash. And so I stopped eating sweets in the morning. And I was good for years. I wouldn't crash. I did not like that feeling of weakness. Absolutely did not like it. So it was easy for me to stop eating sweets in the morning. Then I started crashing anytime I ate sweets. That was maybe 2 years ago. And then I was just limiting the amount of sweets I was eating. I'm talking about candy bars and things. Like when I was out fishing, I'd eat a candy bar, that sort of thing. And when I'm out fishing, I didn't want to become weak. So I limited my consumption of sweets, especially when I was fishing or hunting. And I did not want to become dependent on this shot and insulin. I hate needles. I hate what the pharmaceutical industry is doing to people. Although, you know, if you agree to it, that's fine. I'm not telling you not to do it. But instead of cleaning up our diet, you know, we'd rather take that easy solution of a pill or a shot. Of course, that's not sustainable. You know? Without even talking about what it does to people over the generations, it definitely makes a body dependent on their easy solutions where you can't live without it. You just can't. Your body is so conditioned to it. You know, maybe it would take some real serious, slow changes for you to wean yourself from them. But I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to take any of those shots. I didn't want to take any of those drugs. And I still don't take drugs or shots or anything. I don't even want to go to see a doctor. At least not a conventional one. I'm listening to holistic doctors on YouTube. Which I think it's a much better proposition for good health than it is eating all this food. You know, they're basically going to the actual cause of all these issues, and that's the food we're eating. If your doctor's telling you shouldn't be eating that food anymore, well, then he's a better doctor than these doctors that are just the first thing they do is hand you a prescription. Here, go buy some of these pills. Of course, if you're eating a lot of that food and on sugar and drinking alcohol and all this other stuff, you want an easy solution because you want to keep doing it. Your body is habituated to the situation that you put yourself in, and it makes it hard to change. So you're looking for that easy, what appears to be a solution, and of course it just sinks you deeper into the hole. And if you do wake up somewhere down the line, just a little bit harder, or maybe a lot harder, to get out of the situation you're in. The one holistic doctor I'm watching is a Sten Ekberg. And he said some people are really stubborn. You know, they're so habituated to all this stuff. Those are my words, the habituated part. But the people are so habituated to it that the system just can't rehabilitate itself easily. And it takes some little more drastic methods to kick you back out of that. And basically the most drastic method that they recommend is not eating anything for longer periods of time, like 36 and 48 hour sort of thing. Get you from being on that rush of sugar and carbohydrates, glucose, and get you more into relying on your system where that, you know, you eat food, it stores the excess as fat, and then like really close, you know, not quite immediately, but almost immediately after, you begin to use that fat, and that's what evens out the carbohydrate and the glucose and the insulin in the body. Just look up insulin resistance and you'll find that doctor. There's a couple of them. They're all trying to lay claim that they're the smartest and the best, but if they're talking about insulin resistance, they're probably pretty good. And I just like Ekberg because he has longer videos and he fleshes it out. He's connecting more dots in a video. There's other ones that make short videos, and I like those too. I watch them. One of them is Eric Berg, but he's just basically working on one subject. Of course, there are a lot of variables and a lot of connections, and that's why I like Sten Ekberg better. Alright, I need to do a little meditating here as I work on this. And that'll be the end of this video. I appreciate you watching. I'll get another clip in on when I get a different bowl and pick some red ones. To take from one plant, probably 2 quarts, I would guess. That's a lot. That plant has been good ever since the start. It's right there, giving me all its berries. Now I have a plant over here. See all the berries to pick there. I have another plant right here. These look very ripe too. You see the red ones in the background. The red ones right here too. These are a little smaller berries, and those are larger. And I don't know if I got any more whites back here or not. I got a whole bunch up in the main part of the design. These are Josta berries. This plant hasn't been very productive, but it's a good berry. Now there's a white Imperial White Currant that's kind of failing, but it's got berries on it. And that's it for back here. So I want to get these 2 other plants here that are loaded picked today for sure. That might be 5-6 quarts when I'm done. And I want to do some reds. You can see some of these aren't quite ripe yet, but the ones over there that are larger, I don't see any green berries on that bush. So these might be 2 different types of currants. And then over there by the wooden fence, I've got a lineup of those larger red berries growing in the shade. But because they're in dense shade, they're not as productive. But it's a harvest. Or actually, oh, there's another plant back here too. So there's 3 more Imperial White Currants back here that I got to pick. It's a nice picture right there. I get the leaf and the berries on together. Alright, I'm going to go in and make a video for the Church of Permaculture Sunday sermon.